we need to give you a little demo of an application. We need to show something. Sorry, can we switch back to the slides for a second? So is everyone here familiar with memes or little image macros or anything you'd see on Reddit? So the initial definition, an idea or a behavior or style that spreads from person to person within a culture, but effectively it's pictures of cats. Internet is powered by them. So what we'd like to do is sort of an example of what we can do with the cloud platform. I've left it over here. I've got a mobile phone here. So the modern workforce, more and more mobile. We want to build a mobile application, and we wanted to show you how easy it is to build a cloud backend for this. So in order to show you something here today, we're going to build a cloud meme generator. And because we're Google, obviously it's going to be a beta. So the two memes that we want to, the two features, sorry, we want to show you in our meme generator is the ability to browse and also create memes based on a template. And just to introduce the characters here, we have Urs Hotzel on the front, who's our Senior VP of Technical Infrastructure, who's in charge of the cloud platform and all of our data centers. And Jeff Dean at the bottom is the inventor of the MapReduce framework, and he's one of our distinguished engineers. And there's just things internally like Jeff Dean doesn't count sheep, he MapReduces them, that kind of thing. So we're going to show you how we can run this on a mobile phone, which obviously needs an easy service to do cloud. So we're going to run the server business logic on App Engine. We've got images, so we need to store those somewhere. So we're going to put them in Google Cloud Storage. And then in terms of data store, we obviously have our Google Cloud Data Store, but we want to show you the interoperability we have with great open source software as well. So we're going to use MongoDB to store the text and the metadata of the images. And we're going to use our Cloud Endpoints product, which I touched on before, which is a very easy way to mark your code to say, I want to expose this as an API, which handles authentication, it handles rate limiting, it handles JSON, it handles serialization, everything you want. All you do is you say, this is going to be an endpoint available by HTTP. And you build a library for your phone, and on the phone, you just simply say, I'm storing an object, and everything else is abstracted away and handled for you. Communicate with a client on our Android device. So, first of all, we're going to get started. We're going to create a project, set a workspace up, and get an app running. So if we could change over to the demo machine, please.
All right. So I started where we all should start always, at the App Engine homepage. And the best way to get started is actually click this blue button, which says Try It Now. And it takes us straight to our developer console, where we can create a project. So let's give this project a nice name. I'll call it Atmosphere London 2014. OK, now I need to select the language. As Craig said, we support Python, Java, PHP, and Go. For today, I think Python's a nice language. We both come from a background of systems engineering.
Absolutely.
More like a back-end thing to do, and so that's what we're most comfortable with. And I can get started right now. But actually, we built in right here. If you never used App Engine before, in that moment, you can try it out without even creating a project. So you have some sample code there with any of these areas, Flask, Django, Bottle, any of these frameworks. And you can run it right from your browser. You can change the code here. Can change my greeting, can run it again, and it's actually running live in the web. It's running a little sandbox on App Engine, and this shows right away how your code runs. All right.
OK, so if we scroll down the page a little bit.
OK.
So the Google Cloud SDK is a nice simple download link on the page. You can install packages for it if you want. So let's install that on our local machine.
OK. I do have a Linux machine here. I'm actually running on a Linux, OK. And Cloud SDK is really just copy and pasting that one command, and you can pretty much otherwise use the defaults. I'm going to choose Python and PHP again. But otherwise, it's going to be set up for us, and it downloads all the tools. It doesn't only download the tools for App Engine, but also for BigQuery, for Compute Engine, for Cloud SQL. So once you set that up, you can use all your tools from your local developing environment. OK, I'm going to keep the default here as well. I'm going to add that to my path and enable bash completion, because I think bash completion is awesome. All right, let me clear the screen.
Great. So you just mentioned bash completion there. So let's have a look at what we can do with the.
Okay. So the tool to start to get started with the Google Cloud SDK. I hope not many of you in the room get really frightened when they see a command line. It's called gcloud, and with the bash completion, I can just tab complete and see all my options. So I can do, let's say, components. I don't know what I have. I can do components list. And I can see what I just installed here, and I can choose to install other options later. If I want to later develop an application, let's say in Go or in Java, I can install that.
OK, so now we need to connect the SDK with Jens's cloud account and the project that he's created.
All right, so I do gcloud auth login, which brings me to the OAuth login, and I get this URL to just quickly copy to my browser. And it lets me log in. And then I need to authorize the Google Cloud SDK that it can actually access my projects on Google Compute Engine, Google App Engine, etc. So I'll accept that, get that little code, which I copy back. And that's that. All right.
OK, so one of the great advancements that we've recently introduced in the SDK is every project you create has its own private Git repository. And if you want, you can also connect to GitHub, so if you're collaborating with developers there. So we can initialize the repository for the project that just created.
OK, so that I do with gcloud init. And the project was named Atmosphere London 2014, if I'm not mistaken. And it's getting that Git repository down now. Yeah, all right, that's done. So it set up a directory Atmosphere London 2014. In there, there's a default directory, which is for the default module. Every App Engine application comes with at least one module, the default module, but you can use other modules which you can deploy independently. OK, so now we need to write some code. All right, so let's see. I don't have anything there. So how about we start with some basic endpoints? Let me switch to the graphical environment. Sorry. OK, I got some little code prepared. I didn't want to bore you too much, so I'm going to put that in the right directory here. And that's for basic endpoints configuration. And you always, with an App Engine application, need at least Python and Go. You need an app.yaml file, which defines the application. So this one I'm going to show you first. All right. All right, so what you see here is basically the definition of the application. It just has the name of the application. It tells you which runtime it's using, which module you're handling. And then I have here the handler for every URL. Since I'm not developing a web app now, but just API, I'm using the basic endpoint handler. That's basically always the same. All right, thank you. OK, and the other file I imported is the Cloud Endpoints API.py. That just is my basic endpoints code. And what I do is I define the data model I want to use. I want to store memes. I want to store a collection of memes. So I define these classes there. Templates of memes, because you always use the same images again and again, and a collection of those. All right, this whole thing is stubbed out for now, because we don't have a database on the back end yet or something, but I still want to see if this runs. And here we have what we call the endpoints definition. And the endpoints definition basically exposes that API for us. And it tells you which clients can access it. So I used the Android application this time. You also define which methods you want to expose as an API call. So I have one to create memes, which is called memes.create. And I have one to list the memes, which is called memes.list. And I have one for the templates as well. All right. Cool. What do we do next, Craig? All right. So if we're going to commit that. OK, let's commit that. I need to add it to the repository first. And now I can commit it to the Git repository, which was built for us. Initial endpoints. OK. What do you think? Should we not add some tests to the code? As a good Google engineer, we don't ever commit code without writing unit tests for it. So. Oh, good. I prepared some unit tests as well. So let's get those out there. Let's drag those over. And I'll add those to the code as well. So I add those. And I commit, and that again, tests added. That was fast, actually.
Okay,
right.
so let's push that code up to App Engine.
Okay, so to push code up to App Engine and actually deploy it, you do the same thing you always do when you push a Git repository, and the deployment happens automatically. So you just do git push, and it pushes the whole code base up to App Engine. All right, so that looks good.
Okay, so in second tab there, you've got your console.
Yeah, so I'll switch to the developer console. And
all right, so if you haven't used App Engine for a while, you'll see we have a new developer console for Compute Engine, and we're moving, still some things you need to see in the old App Engine console, but we're moving everything over to this. But something that's brand new to it we want to show today is the Cloud Development tab right here at the bottom.
All right, I'll go there. And this is basically where I see my Git repository.
Yes, so there's, if you wanted to connect a GitHub repo, there's the option there. And because we created a Python project when we started, the release type has been set there to Python unit test and deploy. So what happens when we push that code is that it's pushed to a machine which is set up to run the Jenkins continuous integration environment. It runs on Google Compute Engine. So if we change to the Compute Engine tab there, we can see there's a P2D machine running, which is all set up automatically by the console when you create your project.
There it is.
The push to deploy builder.
Okay. All right.
And then back in the Releases tab.
So if I actually use Java, not only would it do tests and deploy, but it also does the whole build cycle. So it builds, tests, and deploys. Okay.
And so if we have a look at the release history,
okay,
you can see that that push has gone through, the tests have run successfully, and it's currently deploying to App Engine.
Perfect, and that just happened. Yeah.
Okay, so let's have a look. Now this obviously, it's not a web application, so there's not necessarily a web page we can look at. But when you build using cloud endpoints and using Google's APIs, there's an API Explorer service, which is compatible with all of the Google APIs, but also the APIs that you build in your application, which is very easy to interact and to test your APIs. So let's have a look at what
Before we look at the API, should we not look at the unit tests? Otherwise, why did I write them?
Sure, let's have a look there.
All right, so I have the tests which I defined, and I can see the test results. All the tests passed, so it seems my code was working well.
They all took 0 seconds to pass, though.
Yeah, I wrote very efficient tests.
Very good code, I'm sure. So.
Very good code, very good test.
All right, so we're happy now. We've seen our tests have passed, so let's have a look at the output.
All right, there's my API Explorer. So how I get there is actually, so the URL of the app is always Atmosphere London is the name of the app, .appspot.com. And then you have /_AH, which stands for app hosting, which is another internal name for Google App Engine. And then we have /API. That's where all the API methods lie. And then we have Explorer. Because Cloud Endpoints creates Google-compatible APIs, we can use the Google API Explorer to try out that API. And as soon as I get on it, I see the own API I defined right there. OK. All right, so why don't I try out memes.list, which is the first method I defined to show me all the memes. And I can just execute that with a push of the button. I see the call I did to the API. So I can just copy that to a curl command or something when I later want to debug that. And I see the responder I get. And I get the 3 memes which I defined, or 2 memes which I defined.
OK, so that's obviously the list API. Let's try creating a meme with our stubbed.
OK, I can create a meme. There I actually need to give some parameters to the HTTP post. And let's say I give a test URL and a test text. As you know, this is all stubbed out. There's no backend actually happening, so we're not actually submitting that meme. But still, I want to execute that call and see that works well.
Ooh, that's an error. What does that say? It's required to be authenticated.
Yeah.
Of course, we don't want people anonymously submitting memes, so you're allowed to see them. But you have to authenticate with Google in order to be able to create new ones.
All right, I can do that right here in the API Explorer. I'm going to authorize to that API using my Google account. And I can run it again. And this time, it went through. I see the post request I did. I see my authorization with OAuth. the token I got, and I see a response.
Great. All right, so if we could just change back to the slides, please. So it's very easy to get started. What we're showing you is that we use standard open source tooling, so you can use Git, we use Jenkins at the back end. It's very simple to build, test, and deploy to App Engine. And if you're building a service, it's very easy to test that with our API Explorer. So throughout this, we have some links to some videos. Don't worry if you can't capture them now, because there's a website we'll show you at the end which summarizes them all, with some sessions from our Google Cloud Platform Live. One that's particularly useful here is the DevOps at Google Speed and Tools for You, which talks about how we do DevOps internally and some of the decisions behind how we've built our product out. So step 2, now we have a backend, albeit one that's still stubbed out. We're going to need to build an Android application. So we talked about how we can make client libraries from our endpoints, and we'll show you what that looked like. We just change back to the demo, please.
All right. So I first started my console again because I need to create that client library. So as we talked about before, it does that all automatically for you. You get a client library either for Android in Java or for iOS or for JavaScript, which consumes your API. So you just do a normal method call, and all this authorization is done for you. So I want to do a endpoints config as part of the Cloud SDK. I want to create a client library. That's with get client library. I want to do it in Java because I want to use an Android app. And then I need to call the name of my API, which I define in my code. And one last thing is, because I'm using Android Studio that uses Maven, and I'm using Maven as a build system, which integrates very well, I'm going to define that it should build for build system Maven. Okay. All right. So what happened now, it's actually written that client library, zipped it up, and I can use that and copy it to give it to any of my front-end developers. Sometimes it's not the same person, like me. So in this case, I'm just going to copy it to another directory, because I'm actually writing the Android app on the same machine. I'm going to unzip it. All right, shall we look at one of those Java files?
Sure, let's have a look at one of the collections.
OK, let's look at this one. OK. So that's basically the abstracted version of the collection of memes, which you can use to refer to from your Android code. And then, so as you can see, everything is abstracted from you. You don't need to care about authorization or serialization, deserialization. It creates the JSON for you, etc.
So all you need to do in your Java app is call the getters and setters as if it was local methods.
All right. So what I need to do is build this in my local Maven repository. So I do a Maven install.
That succeeded?
All right, that's great. So I'm going to switch over. Sorry. And I'm going to switch to my Android Studio, where I already prepared a little bit of front-end code. We all don't love front-end code as back-end engineers, so this is mostly prepared for you. But I need to now enter this, this library I created here, so I'm going to do that here. All right, these 3 lines compiles the client library I just entered. What?
1.18 or 1.17?
1.17 is fine.
Great.
All right, and I need to sync that now to my Gradle file, Gradle repository. So this can get built. It's happening now.
Gradle is a build system written in Groovy, which is a dynamic language on the JVM, and integrated with Android Studio, and it picks up packages from the Maven repository that Jens installed his module into before.
All right, so perfect. So let's go into the meme service, which I stepped out here, and I'm going to write some code to actually access the meme service. Let's see. No, that won't work right now. So there, I've written some code.
Very quick.
So let's look at it. That's why we're Google engineers, after all. All right. So I have here, here I have the intent handler, where I can create my memes, vote on memes, etc. And it's just setting calling the methods in the client library. So this code should compile now, hopefully, so I can generate an APK. but we already put it on Craig's phone. So why don't you come over and show us on the phone? Because I don't like the emulator here.
So if we could just switch to the phone display on the screen, please.
Yeah.
Right, so this is the application running on the phone. It's talking to the web service. So you can see the two memes that we set up in the stub. And they're the only two memes that are running. And we also have a stub service in order to be able to create a meme. It has some preloaded templates, but we haven't written the service yet to store that, so we'll show you that once we've written that.
All right.
Great, so now if we just flick back to the slides. Slides, please. So now, very easily, we have written ourselves an Android application. We've used the client library that was generated by the endpoints. It's installed into our Maven repository. And so now we have an Android client which is talking to our endpoint, which is running live on App Engine. But it's still a little bit contrived because we're obviously only using stub information. So what we need to do now is connect that up to our storage systems so that we can store and create new memes and then get them down to the phone. So what we need to do is to move from our play around sample application to production ready. So we're going to set up Google Cloud Storage, which is our file storage repository, in order to be able to store the image data. And we're going to set up MongoDB and show you how we can use an open source database for storing the text, voting information, and image metadata. So we go back to our demo machine.
All right, so we start with cloud storage, right?
Yes, please.
OK, so maybe I should show you first cloud storage in the developer console. This shows us in cloud storage. It's organized as objects and buckets. And I put one bucket where we will save the memes and one bucket where we save the templates. So that's how we do on the back end the cloud storage. Now, to put the code in for that, I will close my Android Studio. That anymore. I'll just insert in the two libraries which talk to storage and also create the images. Actually, we didn't create the images so far. They were just stubbed out as well. And I'm going to go into my endpoints config and insert some code to actually use that from cloud storage. So I have my imports here, which import the libraries I just copied over, and I define my bucket where I want to upload the memes. So I copy that in here. And then instead of just not doing anything when creating a meme, I actually render an image and I upload it to cloud storage just with a few method calls. So I copy that in as well in the endpoints definition. Under the
Very good that
model.
you commented your sample code so we know exactly where to put that in. It's good form.
It's good form after all. All right, so that's basically all we have to do. We render the image, we save it on storage, and that takes care of that storage of the file itself.
OK, and we have great client libraries for cloud storage, which make it very easy just to say this is the data that I want to upload. And we're using the Python image library in order to combine the image and the text.
All right, perfect. So now we want to use MongoDB as well, because we just got used to using a lot of open source databases. Who here uses MongoDB in the audience? Anyone? Perfect.
A few hands, great.
A few hands. But our idea is really that we should support anything developers want to use. So developers want to use MongoDB, that's fine. Developers want to use React as a NoSQL database, that's fine. Our data store should be fine as well. So all of them should work. Whatever you use to should work on our platform and should be integrated very well. So as a little preview, what we're doing is we're working on templating, setting up these services on Google Compute Engine for you. And we're working on setting up a cluster of MongoDB with like a one-click where you just define how many nodes you want to have and how many arbiter nodes and what size instances that should be. However, that's still in very early preview stage. So we just set up one MongoDB manually on our Compute Engine right now. OK, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to import in some code to talk to the MongoDB, which I set up previously as well. So here I have my import for the MongoDB, and I have a connect string, which has the username, the password, and the host. Oh,
No photos, please.
Yeah, no photos, exactly. We should probably change this password afterwards. And then it connects and creates the connection to the MongoDB. So I'm going to put that with the other imports at the beginning. OK. And then when we create a meme, we're going to store the metadata of the meme in the MongoDB. And when we actually list the memes, we're going to retrieve it back from the MongoDB. And that's just a few lines of code as well. OK, so I'm going to insert that here to create the memes in MongoDB. And then return the metadata when I'm listing and not return the stub. All right, does that look good?
Right, so we probably need to drag in a few client libraries.
Oh, yes. So, all right, what we need to do is it comes with a few extra libraries for cloud storage and for MongoDB, PyMongo is, and for the Python image library. So I'm just going to copy these over to my local repository and then add them to my Git repository. Let's see, they're all, oh, I'm in the wrong directory. They're all there. So I'm going to add them all to my Git repository and commit them. Let's call it added MongoDB and cloud. All right, perfect.
All right, so let's push that up to App Engine as well.
OK, I'm going to push that as well. It saves all these to the cloud. And there we go.
All right, so let's have a look at the developer console while that's deploying.
All right, there we go. Where do you want to see? Cloud development?
Yeah, so let's have a look at the source code viewer.
OK. So the source code viewer here actually shows what's in our Git repository currently. You can also go over the history to see any versioning you used. You also see who authored everything. In this case, it's all me. But in a real project, you might have more people committing code. And you can see when that was last changed. All right, so that looks good.
Yeah, all right. So if we go back to our releases.
Releases, OK. Let's see the release history. And we see the codes currently being deployed in production.
So now we've got two different releases. There's a link there to a diff. So let's have a look at that.
All right. So there I can actually see what I changed in the code. Most of these libraries I just added. But actually, I made some changes to my endpoints configuration, which I can see right here in the build history. I can see that I replaced these stubbed out versions of the methods with the real ones, talking to the backend. OK.
Great. So how's our deployment coming along?
OK, let's go back and see. Still deploying. Takes a few more seconds. OK.
This is all look complete. There we are. Updates live.
All right.
So now let's go to our API Explorer.
OK.
And if we do our list method,
OK.
Scroll down. So now we can see we have 3 memes there, which we've set up in the database earlier. But that's actually connecting to MongoDB. And if you want to pick one of the template URLs, and we can actually create a meme from the API, and we'll see it added in and persisted.
All right, I'm going to take our head of technical infrastructure, Urs Hölzle, and create a meme with him as a template. So I'm going to add him as an image URL. And what should I add as a text?
Something from the audience. We want to prove we're not making this up. Who want someone shout something out?
Pancakes.
Sorry?
Pancakes.
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 Pancakes. Sorry, I don't speak Northern that well, so
All right.
I'm quite south if you missed that.
Let's execute that. Still authenticated, and that seemed fine. It's
OK,
posted.
so if you click the returned
image
the image in the result.
And Urs says pancakes.
OK, and then if you go back to the meme list.
I'm sure that will get the highest voted meme of the universe at some point. We'll see.
Okay, so go back to the API Explorer, and we'll just show that that's been persisted in the list.
OK. So if I go now to the list and execute that, I get 4 items, including pancakes.
Right, so I'll come over here with the phone.
Now I really want pancakes. OK.
So we just put the phone up on the screen. So here are the memes from our database. Here's the pancakes meme we just added. And so from the application, have a choice of 2 pictures here.
Let's use a cat.
Do we have anything else you want to add? Suggestions? Can anyone beat pancakes?
No one can beat pancakes.
All right.
Maple syrup.
Maple syrup. There we go.
Go. Being posted.
There we are. The meme's been posted, persisted to the database, stored in cloud storage, and returned. So we now have working Android application against Google App Engine
With pancakes and maple syrup.
with pancakes and maple syrup, and we're barely half an hour in. So if we could change back to the slides, see what we need to do with our application next. So as I say, image data is stored in Google Cloud Storage, globally replicated. Our MongoDB instance you can set up to be as reliable as you wish. And our endpoints are running against our Android client. And so we have a session here that talks about some of the inside information on how we run some things at Google. And we'll talk a little bit about that later on as well. But for the final step, we need to get this debugged and scaled and check that we're ready to have all of you create and view memes in this application, or all of your users in whatever real use case you might have. So we want to do a little bit of simple load testing and have a look at what it would look like if we got some issues in production and how we can use the new dev console to fix them. So we'll go back to our machine.
All right. Going to clear my screen. So how are we going to do load testing? Should we install JMeter?
I think we're at the console, so let's use Apache Bench. Let's use AB.
Apache Bench, very simple load testing tools. And how hard should we hit this thing? Let's say
Let's fire 1 million requests at it and see.
1 million requests. OK. How many at a time? Still a MongoDB. It's not data store.
A couple of hundred.
OK, let's put 200 requests
So we're going to simulate 200 concurrent clients.
And I'm going to hit those against my app, which is Atmosphere London 2014.appspot.com.
So we've created a page which simulates a meme being added.
OK.
Without having to specify all the data on the
Yeah,
command
I don't
line.
want to go through this whole endpoint post because that gets a little bit difficult. So I'm going to do that. And it's actually started. So what do we do next?
Okay, so let's go back to our developers console.
OK.
We have a look at the running App Engine instances.
OK. There's the App Engine console. I go to instances. I have 6 instances running now.
Right, so you can see there's one there that was running 5 minutes ago for our previous tests. But App Engine has just seen, oh, the load's picked up, I need to deal with this. And it started spinning up more instances in order to be able to serve all those requests.
OK, so that looks good, right?
Yeah, so if in the dashboard, sometimes it takes a few seconds to catch up, but you can normally see the latency start picking up, and you see there at the end the small number of requests per second, and the graph there will show you the traffic information.
Yeah, it's not. It's near real time. It takes a minute or so. Don't want to.
So if you watch that graph for a wee while, but let's move on and have a look at the logs and see how the data is coming along.
OK, so you can see the logs live as they are coming in, and there are all the requests coming in.
What are those exclamation marks? They don't look so good.
Let me go back. They're coming in pretty fast. There's one which doesn't work, error 500, and there's a few of those. Let me drill down on those. So I can actually filter these logs by any errors, 500s. I see there's quite a lot coming in. That's a bit weird.
So under load, obviously, we have a problem in our application.
But we tested it. There shouldn't be any errors in my code.
So let's expand one of those and see what we can see.
All right.
So you have the request log, but then underneath you also have the information, the error message, raising exception, and then you also have a complete stack trace. And because we have access to the code here, we can actually go in and have a look. See, it seems like it's in our code there on line 48.
All right, so I can drill down straight, go into the source code of Cloud Mean Web. Line 48, so somewhere there must be an error.
Random number between 1 and 100. If it's less than 5, crash. I think I'll approve you taking that code out if that's all right.
Okay, let's change that code right here. Let's take this out. And let me commit this right into production. And I said fixed random bug. That didn't take so long.
It's important to note here that what we're doing isn't just logging into one of the servers and saying the code's changed, I'm going to fix that. What we're actually doing is committing the fix to the Git repository, kicking off a test and deploy cycle like we were doing from the command line. And then this code will be rolled out to all the instances when it's complete.
Oh, we already did 100,000 requests.
Great.
Not bad. All right.
So this is all happening while we're continuing to serve. And if we go back to the log console.
Okay. So the releases, right? Okay. Let's go to the release history. And let's see if there's not quite there yet. Give it a second more. All being done live. Let's look at the dashboard. We could actually probably see the errors. There's the requests coming up. Errors still very low. It should come up. We have 10 instances running now. If I go back to the release history now, hopefully I should see that fix being deployed. And it is being deployed in this moment. It's not deployed yet. But I can go back to my logs and see what's happening. This whole fix is the instances are being changed one by one as soon as the new version is up and they're being live deployed. And if I look at the newest requests coming in, I don't see any errors.
Right, so it's just 20 past. The times are shown here in Pacific, but you can change them in the console to local time. But it looks like that we've solved their problem. We've committed the change to our code. Yeah. And so at this point, I think obviously the code on your laptop's out of date. We've made a change. Someone else, another developer perhaps, or you in this case on production, have made a change. So once we check that we've fixed that, we don't have any new errors.
All right. The last ones were 719, 720 is 0. It's past that, yeah.
Right, so we're at 21 now. We can see that they've stopped. So all we need to do now is pull that change down to your laptop.
So I shouldn't finish the million requests?
We don't really have time, I don't think.
Okay, all right. So I'm going to get these changes back into my local repository. Just doing git pull. And it sees I changed one file, the Cloud Mean Web. Look at that. And
line 48. There we go.
Yeah, there I commented out that. I don't know. Did you put that in?
I don't think so. Must have been our man, Brian. So if we could just change back to the slides again, please. So we've shown you load testing our application with Apache Bench, or you can use any tool you want. We've shown you debugging in the production environment, seeing your errors in your logs, and fixing production issues, but not by creating unique machines, by actually committing a change to the code live from the App Engine console, pulling that code back down. And again, we have a session there for seeing inside your service, which shows you what you can do in terms of debugging and diagnosis. So we've built an app together, and in less than 50 minutes. We started from scratch, but we have a real running Android application that's running with a MongoDB backend, that's running with cloud storage, and we've shown you how we can deploy and debug and scale an application on Google App Engine. So thank you very much. This will be the end of the first session, so we'd like to get you guys to go grab yourself a cold drink or a cup of coffee. Will be about 15 minutes. The things that we've shown you today are in Trusted Tester at the moment. So if you're interested in signing up for the push-to-deploy automation, there's a link there. The videos, the QR codes that you've seen, the cloud.google.com/live has links to all of the sessions. And our colleague Brian wrote the code for the meme backend and also for the different colleague Ian for the Android client. And there's GitHub links there if you're interested in seeing both of those just to see how easy that is.